Today, very quickly, I'll be talking about something that is very important. On Monday, the 16th of November 2021, the Judicial Panel of Inquiries into the restitution for victims of SARS and other related matters, SARS abuses and other related matters, submitted its report. The panel submitted its report to the Lagos State government. And in this video, I'll be showing you a few things, just a few things that I think are very important. You know, the report is about 400 pages. I had to go through this report, and then there are a few facts that I think should be brought out, and then we draw some leadership lessons from them. Now, the first thing is that the panel concluded that there was indeed a massacre at Lekki Toll on the 20th of October 2020. Well, that's a truth that everyone knows, but the government had always and has always continually denied. In fact, the Minister for Information, Mr. Lai Mohammed, just a few weeks ago on the one-year anniversary of the Lekki Massacre, made mention of things like there was no evidence to show that anybody was killed at the Lekki Toll Gate. So, well, this report by the Judicial Panel of Inquiry goes a long way to provide facts that back the evidence that show that indeed there was a massacre at Lekki Toll Gate, and that indeed the Nigerian army and the police were responsible for the deaths that occurred on that day. Now, very quickly, I'll show you a few things from the report, and then just a brief. This would maybe be considered as a brief of the report, a summary of the report that the Judicial Panel of Inquiry submitted to the Lagos State government. First is that petitions were submitted to the panel by SARS protesters, or on behalf of SARS protesters, against the army, against the Nigerian police. These petitions were presented to the panel against the army and against the police. However, the army appeared in the person of a Brigadier General A.I. Taiwo. He gave his evidence, and then, however, his evidence was concluded to be a hearsay because he was never at the scene of the incident on the 20th of October 2020. He was never at the scene of the incident on the 20th of October 2020. The military officers who were at the scene of the incident on that day were summoned, but they refused to appear before the panel. They were summoned, but they refused to appear. So it's important we know this, that the officers were summoned, but they refused to appear before the panel on that day. Now, the second point I'd like to note is that the army, when it appeared in that before the panel, claimed that hoodlums had hijacked the protest, which was largely peaceful. But they said that hoodlums had hijacked the protest. But in fact, after evidence were taken, and even from the evidence of the army themselves, it showed that this claim could not be substantiated. I'll just read something from I'll show you something from the report of the panel, that when they found that this claim could not be substantiated. Now, if you look at number 3, which we're looking at right now, at paragraph B, it says that in trying to justify the deployment of the army, its principal witness before the panel, Brigadier General Taiwo, stated that once a protest goes beyond 2 to 3 days, it will be hijacked by hoodlums. The panel finds that this proposition was not substantiated. The SARS protest at Lekki Toll Gate in particular was peaceful and orderly and was not hijacked by hoodlums. So, contrary to all the claims by by the army, by the Nigerian government, by the Minister for Information, saying that hoodlums hijacked the SARS protest. Even many observers, many objective observers, thought that it could be true that hoodlums hijacked the process. But from the report, from evidence taken during the inquiries, it was abundantly clear that hoodlums did not hijack the protest at the Lekki toll gate. Hoodlums did not hijack the process at the Lekki toll gate, the protest at the Lekki toll gate. And the army, when given the evidence, when General A.I. Taiwo was giving his evidence, he giving his testimony saying that hoodlums had hijacked it. He made mention of things like some hoodlums were throwing stones at the army officers who came to the scene, but he did not provide any evidence. And secondly, he was not there, so his evidence and his testimony was taken to be hearsay. He was never present at the scene. All the officers who were supposed to be present at the scene, they were summoned, but they refused to appear. Now, the next thing I would like to show to us is that the panel concluded that there was no justification whatsoever for the presence of the army at the Lekki toll gate. There was no justification whatsoever for the presence of the army at Lekki toll gate. Now, I'll read something for you from the findings of the panel. The findings of the panel on issue 7, whether the army came or not, there was no justification at all. Now, the panel finds that although the army gave copious evidence of general commotion, violence, and mayhem in other locations in Lagos State other than Lekki toll gate, there is no justification behind the deployment of its soldiers and officers to Lekki toll gate in particular, when there was no violence reported there. Instead of the other critical areas, for example, in places like Onile, Mushin, etc., which indeed escalated into violence. The deployment of the army to Lekki toll gate on 20th of October 2020, in the absence of any reported violence, was totally unwarranted. And that's the finding of the panel from all the evidence that were taken during the hearing of the judicial panel of inquiry, during the hearing of the inquiries. It was abundantly clear. There was no justification. There were no violence. No hoodlums were there to hijack the process. So the army had no justification to go to Lekki toll gate on the 20th of October 2020. The army claimed that violence were in other places, Onile, Mushin, and all the rest. The army did not go to those places, but the army went to Lekki toll gate, where the protest had been peaceful for days and weeks. The protest has been peaceful for a number of days, and so the army had no justification to be deployed. There was no justification for the army to be deployed to Lekki toll gate. Now, the next thing I'd like to show you is that from the findings of the panel, evidence were taken from the hospitals who treated victims, from forensic experts, from coroners who did autopsy reports, and eyewitnesses on that day. Evidence were taken, and it was abundantly clear that the army went to Lekki toll gate with live ammunition. Remember, when the incident occurred, one of the statements that were released by federal government was that the army did not go with live ammunition. They only shot empty bullets to scare people away and all that. Even the witness who came to the panel, Brigadier General A.I. Taiwo, he made mention of that. He gave evidence saying that what they came with were rubber shells of empty bullets that they could not do any harm, that even if they hit you on the skin, you would just have a little bruise, you would not be hurt. But it's interesting to note that even from his evidence, he gave evidence and stated abundantly clear that the army went there with both live and empty ammunition. And in fact, the panel of inquiry did a visit to the locals, visit to the scene of crime, and empty shells of bullets were recovered from the scene of crime. And then the hospitals that treated victims, gave evidence. They came to the panel of inquiry and they gave evidence that yes, indeed, people came with bullet wounds. Forensic experts came, they went to the scene of the crime, and they confirmed that empty shells of bullets were at the scene of the 20th of October 2020 at the Lekki Toll Gate. So it was abundantly clear. It is abundantly clear. You can see from the evidence, from the report of the panel, you can see very clearly the panel states that Brigadier General Taiwo admitted that the troops deployed were carrying blanks and live ammunition. A contrary testimony by witness of the NSAS protesters indicated that live bullets were fired by Nigerian Army, and the empty shell casings of the live bullets allegedly recovered from the scene were tendered in evidence. So you can see from the report clearly. In fact, video evidence of the LCC, which is the Lekki consortium company, and those of Sarah Ibrahim, one of the witnesses who was brutalized, who suffered during the NSAS protest, showed the soldiers were shooting in the air and at sometimes directly at the protesters. Both accounts of the forensic experts and the ballistic experts support the evidence of Sarah Ibrahim and other witnesses. So we can see that it's very clear. It's very clear. Contrary to the claims of the Honorable Minister Lai Mohammed, contrary to the claims of the Nigerian Army, contrary to the claims of federal government, contrary to the claims of all the people who doubted this thing, it's so clear, it's obvious now that indeed the army went there with live ammunition. In fact, live expended ammunition bullets were recovered from the scene, recovered from the bodies of people who were treated during the protest, during the aftermath of the shooting. Now, I'd also want to like to show to you that the panel came to the conclusion that there was abundant evidence that after the army left, the police came and continued shooting and killing protesters. Let me show you something from the report of the panel. You can see this from the report of the panel, that indeed the army came and then the army left, and then police continued shooting and killing protesters. You can see from that paragraph that the police followed up with the killing of the protesters after the soldiers had departed, shooting directly at fleeing protesters into the shanties and the lagoon at the Lekki Phase 1 foreshore, close to the Lekki toll gate, floating corpses and some shot directly close to Sarah Ibrahim. So you can see that it's very clear, without any iota of doubt, without any shadow of doubt, it is very clear that soldiers came, shot and killed protesters, and then the police, because during the hearing of the panel, the police denied that they were absent. They denied that they were present. They denied and said that they were not there on the 20th of October, but evidence was in abundance that the police was also there. And after the soldiers left, the police continued and shot and killed protesters on that day. Now, another thing I'd like to show to you from the findings of the panel is that the army only gave testimony through a witness. I said that earlier. The army gave testimony through a witness that was never at the scene on the 20th of October 2020. All the other persons who were supposed to give evidence, who were summoned and who were present, the commanding officers of the army that were present on that day, they were summoned, but they refused to show up. They abandoned the case, they abandoned the panel, they refused to show up, they refused to come and cross-examine other witnesses, they refused to show up, and they abandoned the case, they refused to challenge any of the evidence. So it makes me wonder when, for instance, the Minister for Information, Mr. Lai Mohammed, is busy screaming that, on the 20th of October, that was last month, was busy screaming and saying, CNN didn't come. oh, Amnesty International didn't come. The army came, but the army refused to give evidence. The army came, the army refused to give evidence. They abandoned the panel, they left. They didn't challenge any of the evidence given. In fact, from the evidence given by the army itself, it was contradictory. The army didn't have its own footages. The army went on the internet to download footages of the 20th of October and contradicted itself in giving its testimony and evidence. What a shame. What a shame. Someone ordered the killing of people. Someone ordered the killing of people. And then during the cross-examination of Brigadier General A.I. Taiwo, he was asked clearly, can the governor of a state order military personnel in a state? He said, no, the governor cannot give orders to military personnel. The only person who can give orders to military personnel is the president, who is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. And that goes a lot to tell you what happened on that day. Now, very importantly, the last point before I conclude this video, the last point is that the panel came to the conclusion that there were attempts to cover up and hide evidence at the Lekki toll gate. There were attempts to cover up and hide evidence at Lekki toll gate. If you look at this report now that I'm trying to read out to you, I'm going to read out to you. It says that paragraph 10, looking at it says Olalekan Sanusi, who eventually escaped to narrate his ordeal and experience, stated that 11 corpses were in the van, the army van, where he was placed, and presumed dead. Ms. Dabira Ayuku also corroborated the above by stating that she saw about 7 dead bodies placed in one of the military trucks at the Lekki toll gate on the 9th of the 20th of October. And then you could also see in paragraph 11, 12, 13 that government tried to clean up the mess, clean up the place, that the trucks with brushes were brought to Lekki toll gate the day after to clean up blood stains from the ground. What a shame. What a shame. So these and so many atrocities that were carried out on the 20th of October 2020. It's a shame that these things happened. And the government continues to deny. I'm still waiting for Mr. Lai Mohammed. I'm waiting for his own version or his response to this report by the panel, which has indicted everybody in government. It has indicted everybody in government that peaceful young people went to protest, went to exercise their constitutional right to freedom of expression, and then they did that peacefully, and then someone deployed security agencies, and especially the army, into a situation that did not resemble anything equated to unrest. And then they killed people. And it's a shame. My heart goes out to all those who were killed. I urge the government to take responsibility for these actions, compensate the victims, and prosecute every official. Every official that was involved, every police official, every military official that was involved, all the generals, prosecute them, dismiss them from the forces, prosecute them, let them pay for these crimes. And I hope, and I believe, or I think, I do hope that even after their political tenure, the politicians who were responsible for giving orders and inviting the army, they would also be prosecuted for the deaths and killings that occurred at Lekki toll gate. I'll be back shortly with my leadership insights for this video. Insight for this video is integrity. It's integrity. People must show integrity. Leaders must show integrity. What is integrity? Your yes is your yes. Your no is your no. What you say you do, you do. If they look at your face, they can tell what is in your heart. That's integrity. People can vouch for you. You are honest. You are transparent. You are transparent. And these are the virtues that are lacking in the leaders of today, especially political leaders. It is important that as a leader, you must have integrity. And this does not start from your leadership. It starts from your personal leadership. It starts from your personal life. As individuals, do you have integrity? Are you transparent? Are you honest? Is your yes your yes? Is your no your no? Can people trust you? Can you say your word and keep to your promise? Can you keep to your word? These are the things that make up integrity. And if you must succeed as a leader, you must have integrity. Integrity builds trust in the people that follow you. Integrity helps you to maintain long-lasting relationship, trustworthy relationships. Integrity would keep you at the top. It will not bring shame to you. It will help you improve and not bring you to disgrace. So it's important that leaders and people must have integrity. Thank you for watching this video today. Precious Ella is my name. Keep an eye on this channel for more videos. Like and subscribe. Turn on the notification button. God bless you. See you next time. Ciao.